Phase number 1, the beginning of everything. A new baby is being born, or maybe not a baby, maybe something else, a business, a process. But let's suppose that this is a human being, because here the idea is that these two cycles, the way we're looking at them now, are human. They do the same thing to us, regardless of who we are, regardless of our background. And these are laws of nature that rule things behind the scenes, we want it or not. There is no point, I think, trying to fight this, because I think that's something really synchronistic if we decide to be following the notion that what's out there in the solar system, in the cosmos, in the way it's ordered, at least that part of it that we know about, that there is a particular rhythm of things moving there and following cycles with our inner clock, our inner cycle, then hopefully you would see practically that this works. And it does point the way. In all of those ages, we experience difficulties, we experience tension. Saturn is tension, is things to overcome and to learn for the sake of growing, maturing, learning and becoming stronger and stronger as an independent creature, somebody who can find its way around and be productive, finding the right balance between individuality and participation, between being able to stand on your own 2 feet without being too easily shattered by difficulties in life or unexpected changes, and at the same time being flexible enough. Here the flexibility comes a lot from the position of the progressed moon over the course of the Saturnian cycle, but also through Saturn itself, whether we are flexible enough to also adjust to what the demands of the world are, and to figure out where is the soft spot between what we were born with as potential, develop that potential to the best of our capabilities over time, and then put it into practice, make it work practically, physically, into something that can contribute, but not because this is what somebody else did and we're just repeating the same thing, not because we were taught that by society and this was imposed in a Saturnian negative way, imposed on us, but because we willingly chose to dedicate ourselves to what we feel or we somehow can sense that our nature and our personal potential is able to contribute. So that's a very difficult thing to realize, even if you have glimpses of that, especially studying your birth chart. And now we get more and more the opportunity to use the birth chart as a tool to somehow decipher the code of it's not a simple one, it's not just one straightforward thing that you discover and this solves all your problems and you can just go out there and do the prescribed activity. There are many possible prescribed activities that fit the profile of the chart, and it's an ongoing exercise of maybe going backwards and forwards, having doubts and having fears, moments of instability, moments of insecurity. These are all Saturnian things, and Saturn is causing that pressure all the time during life. And it all starts here in the first 7 years, from age 0 to age 7, the so-called formative years, when we are pretty much helpless in terms of our own Saturns. Maybe here Saturn is the world, Saturn is the parents, the conditioning. And you know that in every case there is a mixture between positive and negative factors. In certain lives there are resources and attitudes of the people around you that are very helpful for growth. They are just the right thing the young person needs in order to feel secure, to feel cared for, safe, and in order to be able to just develop the body in these first 7 years which is really the point of the first 7 years. You see, there is something very Saturnian here, but mostly we are in a lunar survival mode and very dependent. In a way, I believe the young baby and then slightly older baby after the third, fourth year already senses what's the environment about. These first 7 years is so much about the environment and how it feels on gut level, on a lunar level. Many people say that here, if you take a child and spend, have a great effect or great influence on how the first 7 years of that child are spent, what it receives as external information, care, influence, feeding that child in all sorts of different ways, metaphorically speaking and really physically speaking, that would determine its instincts and its reactions on a subconscious level in the other periods that follow and many years to come after. This is the first period of the first Saturn cycle. So we are going to be going through 3 Saturn cycles here. And when we get to the second cycle, the first period there will have something to do with this one. There will be things to remember from this one. So that's between 30 and 35, or 28 to 35, is the second time Saturn is starting a new cycle. And at that time, a lot depends on what was our conditioning when we were very young, before 7, and what we were given at the time. So the most important thing about this period, I think, is to examine the birth position of Saturn. What aspects is Saturn making in your birth chart? Is there any contact with the moon? It will be the most significant if there is a contact with the moon.